Hey, today I'm super excited for our guest Bill and his daughter Desiree. We're going to talk a little bit about outlaw trucking and some old school tactics.
I love it. Let's get rolling on Beyond the Rig.
This is Beyond the Rig.
Well, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Rig. I got you as a co-host today, man. What happened?
Glad to be here with Slick Willie. That's what we like to call him. Look at his head. Looks good.
Spiffed it up for you, sir.
Nice and spiffy.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is punishment for me or you.
Well, clearly it's punishment for me. I hired you back. We can't get rid of you, so they put you down here in this room and just kind of put you behind a microphone. Those of you that don't know Slick Willie, and I'm sure those members of this podcast have been watching for a while, they've gotten to know him a little bit. The man can talk. So when we put him in the basement, in the studio, he can talk to Burt Reynolds over there. He can talk to this corner over here. That's what Will does. So we're glad he's here with us, though. This is perfect. A microphone, a platform. He's good to go.
And the Transformer. And before anything over here, I'm glad you're here because I have to give a shout out to Lucas Smith. Oh. So everybody that, if you can see Brett Stabler, he's as big as a linebacker. And I have to give a shout out for Lucas Smith. So this episode right here, those of you that are going to be viewing it, it's going to be like Fight Club. So I'm going to probably throw my co-host through the drywall and stuff. And I'm really going to tune him up pretty good for you, Lucas, for what he did to you about 4 years ago back at the Buckeye Terminal. So I got you.
Lucas is like the size of an offensive lineman, except he's only like 5'8". And Will looks like a retired water boy. Let's just put it that way.
You DDT'd him through the drywall. But hey, today's going to be, I'm glad you're on here, man. You're always high energy, and I'm glad you've got the Phil Donahue microphone over here.
I got the mic so I can freely roam. I've been known to get up, Bill, just because, so you know, I like to get up and just move around, so that's what I do.
And sing?
Well, I like karaoke if the mood's right, so if you guys need to hear me serenade, I can do that.
Because that's what you're known for, man, is bringing some entertainment.
Right.
So I need to see it before the end of the episode.
That's right.
Today we got a pretty cool show in line. I'm glad you're here to be part of it, man. We've got kind of a legend that was down at the Buckeye Terminal for years, and I remember he was one of the second drivers to ever yell at me and put me in my place. So when I started with Knight, I thought I knew what I was doing. And the drivers came in, and he's an old school driver. And I remember this gentleman. I told him what I thought was right, and he pretty much told me, mind my own business. This is what I'm doing, and you're not going to change who I am. And with that being said, man, we have Mr. Bill Haro. Welcome to the show, and you have your lovely daughter, Desiree. So we have a family on the show today. So I can't wait to see where this goes. How about you?
Hey, I'm excited. The family that drives together, well, I don't know what else. Maybe stays together, right? Something along those lines. But, Bill, hey, I'm going to give you a little redemption here. Will says that you were evil and mean and you like to yell at him, which he gets all the time from his parents and his wife. He's used to it, so don't worry. I came on board with the running the Phoenix terminal very late in Bill's career when he was getting real close to retirement. So I had a much more refined version of Bill. He never yelled once. He instructed and he taught, and he was very cordial with everybody on our floor. So Bill, I appreciate that.
Well, it was my pleasure. The staff there was fantastic. Even the guys in the truck shop were fantastic.
Yeah. All of them?
Well, most of them.
Most of
them. I trained the other ones. So. The younger ones were the ones I trained.
Well, Bill, I'm curious, man. All the years you spent with Knight, I think you hit, your 2 million mile mark with us?
No, I came pretty close to it. I had 1,852,000.
I think we should round it up
and then
to 2
I had, well, if you count all the miles I didn't get paid for, probably 3 million miles.
Hey, we did mention outlaw side of Bill. Is this pre safety everything that trucking companies implemented here, or are we allowed to talk about that?
Who says 2 heads are better than one?
Well, Bill, we want you on here, man, for your knowledge, your legend, your daughter coming into the industry, and we just want you to share with our listeners and anybody that's viewing out there, man, just paint a picture of what it is you helped pioneer from then till now.
Yeah. Take us back a little bit.
Well, you know, there was a lot of guys that set the stage before I came on board. I think Knight had started probably 10 years before I came on board. So they had a lot of trailblazing before I got there. When Des decided to tell me she didn't want to drive, he asked me what company to go to. There's only one company that I could think of that would do it right, and that would be Knight because of their record and their outstanding training programs. I was a trainer for a while, which I had a lot of fun doing. But
how many years were you with Knight?
Probably about 11 total.
11.
Like that.
Nice. 11 years, 1.8 million.
Off and on. I took a hiatus one time. I went to work for the mines.
Okay.
I was driving the 400-ton trucks or dump trucks.
The big boys.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 400 tons keeps a lot of.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight to keep control of.
Yeah, that would keep.
I can barely control my truck. That's
Yeah,
only
no
80.
thanks.
He says 400 tons.
I know,
like
that's
it's
why I'm like,
nothing. Yeah, it's
yeah,
only
that's-
400 tons.
400
It's like a
tons. I mean,
Corolla
that
or
wasn't quite
something.
8, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, well, on the 25th anniversary, Larry Knight was asking me about it, and I was telling him about the dynamic on the. They have a big, like 32 cylinder engines,
Yeah.
but that's all it does is it drives the motors, the electric motors on the truck, and that's how it brakes as well. The dynamics. So it doesn't really have brakes; it just has electronic
Interesting.
motors.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I just have air.
13-foot tires, 26-foot to get on top of those things. They're a lot of fun, but they're dangerous as heck.
Bill, you're a man's man. You give something for Will to look up to and try to aspire to at one point in his life. He's a long ways away, but I think he can get there. Hey, you told us a really cool story kind of before we got going with the podcast today.
The outlaw version?
Yeah. I how you got your CDL license. Would you share that with us and the audience? Because I think it's fantastic.
Only because the statute of limitations have run out.
You don't have to say any names, but if you do want to give a shout out, it's okay.
Well, like my younger brother, my much younger, much handsomer brother, John, was a director-producer of corporate meeting shows nationwide. And he calls me up one day and he asked me if I had a CDL. And I said, no, I don't. And he said, well, you need to get one because this is on a Thursday afternoon. He says, I need a truck on the road, a 53-footer, from Phoenix to Orlando on Tuesday morning. So go down to Tucson and get your CDL and get up here Tuesday morning. So I said, well, you can't get a CDL, that soon. He says, yeah, you can. He says, you can get anything if you throw enough money at it. So, adios. What are you doing standing around talking to me? Get your
going.
ass going. So I said, okay. So I go down to DMV and I get a booklet, and the book was telling me that I needed to get a physical. I needed to pass the preliminary test to get a permit. And then once I get a permit, I could go to a school and I could get my training. So I go to the clinic there in my hometown in San Manuel, and I go in as a walk-in to see the doctor for the physical. In the meantime, I'm reading this CDL book on how to drive a big rig. So I get my physical done. I go back to the DMV. I take my test. I pass my test. So then Friday morning, I go down to Tucson to this school, and I talk to the manager, and I says, I need to get a driver's license by Monday night. It's Tuesday, I got to be on the road, He said, well, you got to go through a 4-week course. And I said, well, I laid a $100 bill on his desk.
You sure I got to go?
I said, you sure it's got 4 weeks? He said, well, it could be a little bit shorter than 4 weeks, Let me think about it. So I put another $100 down. Yeah, you're working on it,
Passing that test?
Excuse me?
Closer.
Passing the test?
Yeah, passing the test, yeah. So anyway, got up to $650. And the $50 was for the test. The other 600 went in his pocket. So that's a Friday. So Friday evening, I get on this truck, and there's like 12 people in this little, I think it was a Freightliner, an old Freightliner donated by Warner, to this company. It had like 850,000 miles on it, falling apart as you're paddling, going down the road. And I got about 10 minutes of driving on that before the next guy got in. So I said, well, that ain't going to do it. I said, I need to live on more than that. So this trainer says, well, he says, I'll bring a truck up, and we can drive it on Saturday. And he said, it'll cost you $100. I said, okay, well, here's $100 for you, too. So he goes up to my small town in San Manuel, which is a small community. It was built in the 1950s. But it's got tight corners. It's got, small streets. So we spent about 3 hours driving around town. And I drove up to Oracle, which is 13 miles away, and then back down to San Manuel. And I said, okay, I got it. That's good enough for me. So he said, okay, well, come in Monday and we'll give you your test. So I go down there Monday, and he's riding on my front porch. And he's telling me how to back up, doing the serpentine and doing the 45 and all this.
During the test.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So I give him another $50 for doing that, just keep it going. So then they're able to give me the driver's test. He signed off on me. There. Go down to DMV. They give me my license, and I'm good to go till I get to Mississippi. Tuesday morning, I left Tuesday morning. I get down there in Mississippi, like on a Thursday, and I'm tired. I mean, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm beat.
You've been driving for like 3 days straight?
Pretty much, right. 55 in Texas takes you two days to get through.
Those really cool yellow jacket pills or whatever that you take at the truck stop?
No, I never did that kind of stuff. No, I never stayed away from that.
All natural?
Yeah, just coffee.
Right. Okay, all right.
So I get down to Mississippi, and I run into this old-timer, and he's looking at me, and he says, man, driver, he says, you look beat. I says, tell me about it, He says, what's going on? So he says, come on, join me. He'd been on the road for 40 years, this old guy. So I told him the story. He goes, well, hell, he ain't wrecked yet. He must be doing pretty good. He says, what's your logbook look like? I said, what logbook?
What is that?
What do you mean, what logbook? You're not running a logbook? I said, hell, I don't know what a logbook is. I saw him mentioned somewhere down in the book. But
that $650 didn't cover logbook training?
Yeah. Says, well, go in there and get a couple logbooks, and I'll fix them up for you.
A couple?
Yeah, well.
You got a doctor in case you make mistakes. You got to have another one ready to go.
You always had to have a backup.
Right.
So this old timer, he takes my logbook, and what time did you leave? And he does the math. So he gets me right into Moss Point where I was at. And so then he said, how about the way stations? How you been going through there? I said, what way stations? I said, oh, yeah, I just passed those things.
Just learning as he goes.
He said, no, Bobby, you got to go in there and go in there. I said, what for? For they can weigh you. I said, well, I know how much I weigh. 180 pounds, like it or not. No. So he tells me how to do that, and he takes all the fun out of life, I tell you that.
Driving wasn't as fun anymore.
Then I get down to Florida, down to Orlando, and I get there pretty early because my dock time is like 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I get there about 8, and I'm watching these trucks that are before me backing up. Because, hell, I don't know how to back that thing up and everything, So what I do is I get a bunch of quarters out, and I'm standing by this truck backing up, and I keep laying these quarters down where he's at. So then I pull up in there, and I'm looking at these quarters. I'm not looking at Doc. I'm not looking at my mirrors. I'm just looking at these damn quarters.
Oh, my goodness.
So I get backing up in there, and I look in my mirror, and I see my brother with his crew, about 42 of his production people out there on the dock, and I see them all making bets.
You're going to make it in.
Yeah. So I know my brother's behind it, of course, you know.
Right.
Anyway, I get back in there and back up and get her unloaded. And my brother got this big old smile on his face and handful of money. I had a good time.
That's awesome.
Got down there and got to watch John Glenn do that shuttle launch up
Oh, yeah.
in space that time.
Oh, that's
Great.
cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, sitting up there, and I think we were in the Walt Disney area.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're on the top floor of one of the Hot Shots rooms.
That's really cool.
You know, the Cape's about 90 miles away from there or something, but you can still
But you
hear
can see that.
and feel the vibrations of this. Of those
Everything's
engines.
flat. When it takes off, you can see
amazing, yeah.
everything.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. Really cool.
So when did you know? So talking about the mines before, did you have any driving prior? Was it just strictly outlaw, go in and pay the guy under the table and take off?
I drove a gray line bus.
Right.
I learned, that's how I learned the gears, part of the gears. I did that for just a short period of time because they were only paying $5 an hour. It cost me that much money to drive down to Tucson to get it.
Drive a bus for $5 an hour.
Yeah. Well, I had 3 jobs at that time. Worked for the prison, and I was driving the bus, and I was working as a bartender. And then I changed off the bus, and I drove a limousine for a few years.
You lived this exciting of a life, and I never knew this about you.
Well, I used to
Why do you
work,
think he was so angry with you all the time? He had such a cool life before.
I started as a correctional officer working on death row and around the death row inmates and the gang leaders. And back then, in 82, they had assembled all the gang leaders off of all the yards, the different yards, whether they were the Mexican Mafia or the Aryan Brotherhood or the Black Mau Mau's, whatever they were. And they put them in this one building, and we used to walk in that building fighting, and we would leave fighting. I mean, that place just rocked and rolled constantly.
I followed my dad there too.
Those guys had no sense of humor.
Oh, man.
Right.
You know?
I'd have to fight anyone.
And then later I became a case manager of them. And so I was with Death Row quite a few years.
Man.
So what? That sounds pretty cool of a life. Why trucking? And when did you know that driving over the road all those years, that would be your career?
Well, you know, once it gets in your blood, once you get on the road and you start getting the sense it's bigger than you yourself. I mean, you start realizing that you're serving the nation. You're doing something for somebody else that needs it, you know.
Right.
I'll tell you a little story. I was going up to Bismarck from Wyoming on a load, sandbags. They had the dam had busted, the levees were breaking, they needed these sandbags desperately. But it was in the wintertime. And I left there and it was snowing. I got through Lead and Deadwood, South Dakota, and I got in there and hit a blizzard, and I shut down for 3 days. You know, but I'm thinking these people, they need these doggone sandbags up there. I gotta find a way to get it up there. So as soon as the road's open, and they got this Doppler radar at this gas station that I shut down at, so you can watch it hour by hour. If you get a break in the weather, you can, you know, go for a couple hours. And so I was doing that for a couple of days, and I got on the road, and I get out there on this main highway. I forget what it was. Probably the US 90. But in any event, I'm out there. I'm the only person on the highway. And it's a 4-lane highway on both sides, a split median. And I put my truck sideways. They had an emergency pull-off lane on the inside lane, the number 1 lane. And they had another one on the outside lane. And I put my truck sideways. My front tires are on the rumble on this one, and my back tires on the rumble on the other side. I get it slowly turned around, get going. That happened to me 3 times in like 15 minutes. I'm getting better at it now. The third time around.
Yeah. Will would have shut down again by then.
Called in, driver manager said it ain't gonna make it.
Been like no noodling and no driving in the snow. I'm out.
Well, but for those people that needed those sandbags,
I
was gonna get it there come heck or high water.
That's fantastic.
Anyway, so that was the third time, and that was it. The road got better and better, and I got down there, but boy, it's colder than heck in those.
Oh yeah.
South Dakota, North Dakota,
Can only imagine.
Right?
Wisconsin. Oh my God, Chicago. But anyway, we got her done, and that was. But you realize that you're doing something that people need. You know, we feed the nation.
Yep.
Larry Knight told me one time that the economy got really bad, you know, and we were $5 a gallon back then.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, people are always going to need to eat. They're always going to need to eat. So that's why when Des got in the refrigerated side, the economy being like it is today, well, I'm glad that she did that because she'll have a job. She'll have a way to make a living, and an honest living.
You can't have an introduction like that to Desiree overhearing all this.
I was just going to say.
Mafia and all this stuff you have. So your daughter.
Well, yeah, why don't we transition to Desiree?
Yeah.
And see how her story compares to her father's.
I mean, we had the outlaw teacher over here. And Desiree, how long have you been in? Welcome to the show, first and foremost.
Thank
I know
you
we've
so
had
much.
the spotlight on him over here. It's so interesting. We couldn't help but listen.
We
Absolutely.
love the old school.
You're right.
So do I. I love him so much.
So, first of all, how did you get into trucking? Was this always in your blood as well?
No, no, it wasn't. I was married for 29 years, and so I got divorced, and that happened in January. And I was kind of surprised by the whole thing, actually. So I was like, what am I going to do with
By
myself?
the divorce or trucking?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It all took her off guard, yeah.
Yeah. But my kids were grown, and I was like, what am I going to do? Like, how can I, support myself and, and
So
I
asked this as you paint this picture. So this is like the sad stage. So you're
but it got better, and I finally had gotten my first apartment. So the first year was like I never had my own apartment. It was great. Like I had a great time, and but I was thinking like, how am I going to be able to support myself? And the job that I had, I did fraud at a bank, and so they paid me well.
Whoa! What do you mean? You just said your dad over here all this stuff in the prison. You did fraud?
Yeah, and I also worked at the prison.
How much money did you make?
Wow, that's kind of a personal question.
I mean, she said I made fraud. Were you defrauding the banks?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what's your waist size, Will?
Yeah, right.
While we're at it.
I worked.
You have a secret stash?
Good grief.
No. No, so I did that, and they paid me well, but I was looking for some way for me to, I kind of lived in a bubble for a lot of years because in my marriage I was taken care of, and so I didn't have to do this. So I thought, you know what, I need to pay this debt off that I have, and I want to buy my own house. And paying almost $2,000 a month in the apartment I was in, I was like, no, that's going to take way too long.
Not working.
Yeah. And so I knew that my dad had, supported us well, and he has a beautiful house, and him and my mom, and I was like, you know what, maybe I can do that. And my girlfriend Daisy, we were gonna both do the CDL, and we were gonna team drive. Well, then she chickened out, and so then I was like, whoa, like what? I'm gonna do this by myself. And I went and I talked to my dad, and I told him I'm gonna. And he's like, I don't think that's a great idea. He's like, maybe you should just stay at the bank.
So he
you're
tried
doing
talking
good
you
there.
out of going.
Yeah, because he's very protective, and even growing up, he was always very protective of us.
But why did he try talking you out of trucking?
Because he said it's dangerous, and
it's his
it's
girl.
hard,
Right.
and people are, it's a mean world out there, and he knows that I live in a bubble. So I don't know about any mean stuff. I don't know about dangers, except when I worked at the prison. But yeah, I mean, I'm far removed from that now. And so, but I told him I was going to do it. I was like, Dad, either you can support me and help me, because I'm still going to do it. And he has been the best resource I could ever. I don't know if I could have still been here really if he hadn't helped me.
You know, everybody listening right now, sorry. Everybody's listening is wondering, is your same little hookup out there where you got your little test? Did you send her over there for $650 as well?
Well, it got up to $800 if you could do math, Will. With the money he was paying. No, even before the Tennessee part. Yeah, go on.
Anything after 100, I'm done.
Yeah, and Knight was supposed to reimburse me for that, come to think of it.
That's why you yelled at Will. Right. He didn't know how to make that happen. He couldn't calculate it.
Brett would have took care of it. He was in there.
So I did, my dad, like I said, he's been so supportive. And so I went and I went through the school. I went in Salt Lake. I went through, Swift.
So you went through the Swift Academy up in West Valley.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And then when I was done with that, but I, since I'm working here, they asked me if I would like to be part of the Top Gun program, which I was not. I felt very proud about because they said I was doing good. And I was like, I am? Really? And so I got to do that program, which was exciting. And me and one other lady, and so our little trucks were next to each other. And in the morning, I'm like, knock. I'm like, hey, are you do you want to go get something to eat or whatever? And so.
And what is that program you're speaking of? So you got your CDL. Gun. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is it just additional training?
No, after you get your CDL, so I did that. Then you get to participate in this if you're asked to be in the Top Gun program. So for the first week, you're going to live in a truck right at the school grounds, and you use simulators to do half of the day, and it teaches you a lot of backing. And I learned a lot of like blindside backing.
Sure.
A lot. That was pretty much all it was.
The big time.
And I was like, well, okay. So I learned how to do that. And then the other half was out in the field, doing backing. And so whatever we learned from the simulator, then we would, copy it out there on the field. And so I probably had 50 backs by the time that week ended, at least, maybe even a little more. And then it was time to get a trainer. And then it was time to go on the road.
The social experiment gone horribly wrong. That's when all the fun started.
Wow. I didn't.
Was it harder than marriage?
Some days.
You weren't locked in a small moving closet.
Right.
Right? At least in a marriage, you had a chance to get away.
Not fast enough.
It took me 29 years.
Right. So yeah, but I was really blessed. I told my recruiter that I had, and he was amazing. And I told him, I said, I don't care if you give me a man or a woman or whatever. I was like, but they have to have a lot of experience. I do not want to have somebody with because all I know is that vehicles have tires. Like, I don't know anything else. So I need to make sure, although at that point I had, done my inspection so I could point things out, and I'm really good at memorizing. So I don't, yeah, but I did it. I swear. And, although I did have to have help backing up because I had to call the police because I got myself into some kind of situation where I couldn't back up. And the police officer goes, "Are you sure you have your CDL?" I was like, "Yes, I do. Would you like to see it?"
You should have put quarters on the ground like your dad did.
No. GPS failed me again.
Oh,
what the heck? But yeah, so I was, I did my 2 weeks with my trainer and then got my truck, and it has been an adventure. But
how long have you been out on your own?
Since August 16th.
August 16th.
Ooh, that's not very long.
Tell me
how many miles you got so far.
Almost 20,000.
Wow, good for you.
Right.
So you're about to be in the solo.
And I've had and I've had two breakdowns. I've had a little bit of breakdown issues. So, I figure that I've had like 8 days of breakdown. So in that short amount of time, I feel like, maybe I can do this. I don't know.
Well, you seem very confident in your
really?
trucking career. Absolutely. I mean, you've got a good mentor. Do you think having your dad in your corner?
I think I wouldn't be here.
So when did he start backing you up? Like when you said originally he was like, I don't want my little girl out on the road, and you finally gave him the ultimatum.
Because
then what did he do?
He was willing to help.
Oh, that's great.
Because he knows how stubborn I am.
He knew you weren't going to give up?
Nope. I don't. And
so if you're stubborn, you take after him?
Absolutely.
She's very well read. She's very intelligent. So as far as that goes, I know she could handle it. I'm just very proud of her. And once she decided to do it, then let's go. Let's do it.
That's awesome.
But there's been several times I call him crying.
Oh, I'm sure.
This job is exciting, and I get to start my own adventure. So I get to see places I've never seen, and I never would have been able to do it without this truck. But it's challenging.
Her first trip out, she goes down to Florida.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my
That's
dad,
cool.
he goes with me. Like,
Awesome.
he's like, he told me one day, because I had the thing and I was talking to him and I have like FaceTime and he's like, not to be rude or anything. He's like, but can I watch the road? Sure. I'll flip you right around. There you go.
I see you enough, sweetie.
Yeah,
Just
he's
show
like,
me the road.
we're good. I want to see where we're going. Okay.
She was on the I-5 going up towards Sacramento one day. She goes, Dad, I'm really hungry. And I said, where can I stop? I said, well, show me the road. She puts the camera on the road. I said, well, you got about 3 more miles and you'll hit Patterson. There's an In-N-Out burger right there. Go in there. And sure enough, it was.
Truck parking.
Yes.
That's
But
fantastic.
I had
There
been on
was.
that road so many times that I can say that probably I can do that nationwide.
Yeah.
Billy, you ever going to get in the truck with her as a passenger?
Anytime. I miss it. I miss being on the road. If I could physically do it now, I'd be out there.
You miss it?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
That's
told
cool
me
you're
the
taking him
sweetest
along
thing.
with him. Yeah.
The sweetest thing that one day we were talking and he told me, he said, Mija, whenever I got done driving, he goes, I was done. He's like, I put my miles in. He's like, I was good. He's like, but seeing you do it, he goes, makes me want to do it. He's like, I get to drive, through you. And he goes along with me on the rides. And that was the sweetest thing. After he got off the phone, I had a couple tears because, I have a CB that's in my truck. I don't know how to use it. I don't know. But I bring my dad with me every time.
CBs,
That's the one he
they're
used.
garbage.
Hey,
That's what
Well,
they
I
are.
don't want to hear people yell at me and tell me how horrible of a driver.
Yes. You don't know how to use a CB. He didn't know how to use logs. It's okay. You just learn as you go. Just like your dad.
He keeps telling me, you need to make sure that works because you need to ask.
But you only use the CB when there's a breakdown. And you find out what's going on ahead of you.
Uh-huh.
Just see how you can go around it. That's the only time I ever used it.
Yep.
Look for the police. What's going on?
I didn't care. I was doing the speed limit.
Yeah, I drove for companies. They were so slow it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Especially in Texas.
For impeding traffic.
When those tank oil tankers go flying by you on those straight roads in Texas.
Any crazy stories since August 16th? I'm sure. This isn't going to be a serious just podcast. I want to hear the
Okay,
good
is
stuff.
there like any kind of like
We want to hear.
okay, but like yeah, I just
Have you
I still
heard me
need this
in here
job.
talking?
No, I'm just saying
Hey,
like
nobody's gonna get rid of you. You're all
You
right.
have a right to remain silent.
I know, but all right. So let's see.
We had to edit.
I guess that there's a lot of like the industry's changed
Yeah.
a lot from my understanding. However, my first time I went to the truck stop, they thought I worked there. And I don't. So that was awful. I'm like crying to my trainer. She's like, it's okay, honey.
It's like a convenience store clerk.
So now no, not exactly, but
Oh, okay.
Right.
I got you. Okay.
A little slow there, Brett. Hey.
Yeah, look who's living in a bubble now.
Yeah. Will's looking pretty good right now.
so then I told my trainer and she's like, it's okay, and I was just sad about it. But now I stay at rest areas a lot because for me, they're safe and a lot of them are really nice. And so if I get up in the morning, I want to take a walk or like maybe meditate before I get on the road, anything like that. Some of them are very beautiful. And so I don't have to worry about staring at the person across from me. When I do go to the truck stop, as soon as I get there, I close my curtains and I, go in the store if I need to. And then I'm in my truck the rest of the night because I just don't want to be bothered.
Is that in the back of your head, just being a female driver out there? Because, there's not a whole lot that's in the industry. So I could see where
better.
your dad is, worried about his daughter out there.
Yeah,
And
like
being a female?
He's told me, he's like, do not walk between the trucks. He goes, if you can park closer to this, when you're in the truck stop, try to park closer to the building if you can, because you don't want to be walking between the trucks. And I take my seatbelts and I seatbelt my door handles
That's old school.
in because, hopefully.
Did you learn that from your dad?
No. I learned that
Pick
from.
that up on your own, huh?
No, well, my trainer that I had when I was in the academy, I was talking to her because I know that my dad was concerned about my safety, and so I'm like trying, and because I am,
Yeah.
I just wanted to see what can I do because I can't have a weapon. So I
do you keep a tire thumper to thump your tires?
I have this thumper that my dad gave me to check my tires.
Yeah, check your tires.
I used to use that with Will when he was working under me.
I took it from him and used it on him.
And literally, it was like thumping a tire. It would bounce off that head of his. There's nothing in there.
Well, I had a couple like new person incidents because I don't know how to do U-turns, and so I guess if you do too tight of U-turns, it can cause problems to your vehicle.
This is the part where we're going to have to edit. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Look.
So that was, but you know what? When I called claims, I told them, hey, I said, you'll be happy to know I don't know how to do U-turns. But I had to do it in the shippers, and I didn't know how to do it.
Let me just put this out here for the record. Yeah. Back in the day, I did lots of U-turns. They didn't have all this technology. So anybody that says they don't do that, I don't know if I wouldn't be in a safety office all the time now if I would make it in a trucking career because of getting lost.
You can do the U-turns in a private parking lot, right?
Yes.
You can.
They just don't want you doing it on the road.
Right, on a road.
I was doing mine in places to where...
Well, like I said, the thumper bounces off his head. There's not a lot there, so he just did whatever he wanted.
So I'm learning like this. I'm learning as I'm going with the 2 weeks, and I'm very thankful I got to be with somebody for 2 weeks. And so she taught me how to drive. That's great. That is the easiest part of this job, I swear. Like, my dad has been he has helped me do my trip planning. He can tell me he'll tell me what, if you can get this far, this is the truck stops that are there. Yeah. This is because I didn't know he also was helping me with my weight because apparently fuel weighs like 8 pounds a gallon. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so he's like, don't go over half because you'll be over your, I'm moving my tandems. It's just, there's so much that goes into this job that of course you go over a little bit in school, but
he's helping that. And he's helping that learning curve, right? I mean, the drivers go through, and for you, it's going to be much shorter.
I feel like I have an advantage over. I don't think I would have made it if I didn't have him because it's hard. But you know what? Every day I do it, I did it that day, and then I'm like, oh, I got up this morning and.
Yeah, but you said you raised kids, right?
Yeah. So
you've done the hardest thing on the planet.
So I'm going to ask you this question and put everything on the spot here. I just do it anyway. Okay. Oh well, they can edit if they want.
All right.
Being new, coming in the career, okay, you're changing. It's a big life change for you. Do you feel like you were given all the tools into the industry? Because I asked everybody this. Like they come in, they feel like they could have had more training. They don't have a Mr. Haro over here who's been in the industry.
Absolutely not.
I don't feel like you're set up for failure if it wasn't for your father, honestly.
For sure, yes.
Right.
And some of that is just because I don't know if you could be with a trainer for a year, and I don't know if everything would come up that you need to know. Honestly, I don't. So I don't think it's really like I do believe that, it would be more difficult as a new driver. However, but since I have my dad, it's, been a little easier. But I almost think that maybe there should be like some kind of like, maybe if you had a dispatch that only does like new people so they can handle all the new people problems. Because my poor dispatcher, who is wonderful, he has the estrogen fleet because it's like 20 women and like 2 men. And he's great. I love him. One day I called him and I'm crying and he's like, it's okay, dear. It's okay. He's like, this is just a girl. Because I was like, I don't know why I'm crying. I know there's no crying in trucking. And he's like, it's okay, dear.
You might as well give a shout out to because I'm going to research
His name is Richard and he's awesome.
Richard has the estrogen fleet.
Yes.
Well, we got to give a shout out to Richard with the estrogen fleet.
Yes, indeed.
I'm guessing that Richard's got a family of women.
Yeah, I think so. And
lots of daughters.
And he's been and I was blessed because I got a dispatcher that has a lot of years in the industry. I think he's like been like for 20 years.
Oh, that's great.
And so I don't have to do anything. I mean, as far as like, I get to drive the truck and he handles all of the other BS, right? Like, so there's not much I have to do. But if I did, I don't know if I could do it, because dang. But it's, every day's something new. And as crazy as it can be with like some of the guys out there, which is why I don't go to the truck stops, on the other side of it, I have had nothing but help. If I ask somebody for help, there has been somebody that's willing to help me. If I need help backing up, if whatever I need help with. I mean, my tire blew out, which makes a big loud bang in case anyone doesn't know. Like, I was like, what is that? And oh my gosh. And my dad's like, you can go a little further. Oh no, I'm like on the side of the road. There's like no room. He's like, it's pretty dangerous. I think there's a stop just right up the road. He's like, just go. Okay. So, but yeah, I can't imagine if I didn't have my resource as my dad, that I can't imagine coming into this, how alone you would feel.
Yeah.
Because this job, I mean, you are alone a lot. And with other careers that I've had, there's always support. So you can reach out and you can ask for help. And, and there's somebody right there that, even if you have to walk to their desk, you can get some help. And here you're on your own. There is nobody. I mean, I can call somebody and they may be able to give me some advice, or, maybe this is what you should do. But it's still me doing it. So as helpful as he is, he's still not there with me.
Right.
And so these are all things I've never had to deal with ever, right?
It used to be a lot different back in the day, man. You'd see a truck on the side of the road with the four-way flashers, and you'd have 50 people. Hey, you okay, driver? I mean, they would pull up in front of you, behind you, and come out and offer to help, with tools, knowledge. There's all kinds. It's definitely a different industry out there these days.
Well, I think that our society is a lot different. So
It's changed a lot.
You don't, because I even had this guy and I was getting fuel. I was in the fuel line, and he came and asked me for money. I was like, no, I'm not giving you any money. He's like, I just need a little bit to get a hotel. And I'm like, and I told him, sorry, I don't have any cash. And I managed to get a little change out of, that's all I had to give him. But he's like, this industry's different. He's like, my dad was a trucker. He was like, and people always would help each other. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you have in a day, I'll have, several people ask me for money. And for me, being a woman, I don't want to take any money out because I don't want to get robbed. So I don't know if I'm pulling money out if they're like, oh, she has money. Yeah. Well, let's just knock her out and take it the whole truck.
You into giving the money that you earned.
I'll be asking for money myself if I give to everybody.
Right?
Jeez.
I mean, I could have had to stop even carrying my nice purse because I don't want to be a target.
Put it in a Walmart grocery bag.
Right?
Just, play the part.
It's because, I'm like, I'm a girly girl. And so like, I like nice things, but out there I have to look at everything a little bit different. Like, I don't want to be the person that now becomes the target for whoever's in that parking lot looking at,
Smart.
And then me being in the truck by myself, it's like, I almost want them to think that I'm not in there by myself. And so I had asked the shop to order me. My truck didn't have those curtains that go from the back to the front. And so I asked for those curtains. I said, because then when I can keep those closed all day. And then nobody knows if someone's sleeping back there or not. And then when I get to the truck stop, I can close the front and they still don't know, you know? And so it's like just thinking a little bit different about maybe protecting myself in a way I haven't had to do before.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you. Who else is in the trucking family? Your son? Was he also into trucking? Your wife never was, correct?
My wife drove for Knight and
that's right.
And me as a team for 6.5 years.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
And I was training at the time, and we had a dedicated with Albertsons going up to Carlsbad and to Hobbs and El Paso and back. We did that like 3 times a week. And
teaming with your wife, right?
Yeah, and then they decided to stop the training program. And I was going to lose that run, which is a very lucrative run. And Larry Knight, again, comes in and says, well, Bill, he says, why don't you get your wife to drive? And I said, oh, my goodness, I don't know about that.
We spent enough time together.
So I said, I'll call her up and see what she says. Because she was lonely and I was lonely, you know, being out there gone for so long. So I called her up and she goes, yeah, I'll give it a shot if you want. Really? And I said, yeah. So Larry says, well, take that truck and that trailer home for a month and teach her how to drive. Take it home. And then, yeah, that's what he did. And so I did. I took her, and out of all the guys that I trained, I swear to God, my wife hit the gears better than any of the rookies that I trained. Yeah, she just instinctively knew how to. And when I met her, she never knew how to drive. I taught her how to drive even the standards.
And you teamed for 6 years.
6.5 years, yeah.
That's amazing.
She got up there in Indiana, hit some ice coming out of a rest area, and put it sideways just a little bit. And she said, that was it. I'm done. I'm finished.
Scared her.
Yeah.
But if I got time to tell you the backup story on that, it's a little bit more. We had gone down to Florida, down to Lake City, on a Walmart, or no, a Home Depot load. And we had a hurricane coming in. So we said, well, we got to get this load and get out of here because it's coming in pretty quick. So this hurricane pushed us all the way up into Georgia, and then we got away from it. We got down into Kansas, and a tornado. We were bobtailing. We went, dropped the trailer to the yard. We were going down, bobtail down to get something to eat. And all of a sudden, these sirens start going off. And we're looking at the TV, and they got a really good system there. They track a minute by minute, second by second. It's street by street, actually. That's how good their information is. So there was a Flying J right down the road, and we're bobtailing. So we jumped in the truck, and we went down there and jumped in between two trucks with trailers. And this thing, I swear, went just like a block away from us, this tornado, and rocked us a little bit, and a lot of lightning, and pretty scary. But so then we get out of there, and we go up into Washington State, and I'll be a son of a gun if they're talking about Mount St. Helens
erupting
again, and expect a little bit of ash this afternoon, and maybe worse. So everybody get prepared, and so we pop the clutch and burn rubber out of there.
You know?
So you're hitting all these natural disasters?
This is in one trip.
Jeez.
Did you
get down to California? Guess what we
Earthquake?
I was just gonna say, did you get it all?
A 4.5 earthquake down in Los Angeles, Montana. And in the truck, you don't feel it, maybe just a little bit of wobble because of the rubber tires and stuff.
Yeah.
But she goes, okay, let's go home, please. I got to go home. She
I've
never
had enough.
went back again. She goes, I'm out of here.
Good done.
Let's go back to Arizona, where all I deal with is heat.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you, just your opinion from how you started out into trucking, what surprised you now with how things are done, and same questions for you when he answers. Industry then compared to now.
It's amazing. We were talking about Terrion. We were talking about, we still had this, Knight had put a couple $1 million in the system where it was going to run off of AM, FM radio signals. So whenever you get into town, you could pick up your next load who would come up on your...
Automatically.
Yeah. Sketchy, but, we come up. But before that, it was going to truck stops, and they had these phones. You call the 800 number, and you plug in the Night, and they give you your information, and you'd have to get the map out to figure out what route you were going to go to, and
the Thomas Guide.
You get into the city, yeah. I mean, it was a cumbersome, very difficult. And then when the GPS came out, oh my God, what a relief! Well, that took so much off a driver's head that the planning that goes into dispatchers.
Amazing.
God bless them, they want to get it off their board. They don't care.
Yeah.
Whoever take it, they'll just shove it on them.
You remember the screens back in the day where it was like lima bean green, and it would have TL turn right. And you're just trying to scroll while you're driving just to find out where you're going.
I know. Amazing what was the technology that's kicked in since then. But if I may, just as a trainer, I'd like to talk to maybe the younger drivers out there, not the old guys that have been out there, but there's so much planning that goes into accepting a load. You know, there's so much information that you need. You know, how many hours you got left on your 70? Do you have many hours to go pick up your load and to get it moving? You know, where's it going to land at that afternoon when you shut down? And, you know, are you going to have enough hours to get it there? What's the weather going to be like? What's the weight? You know, what's the traffic? You know, I would shut down, let's say in Wheeler Ridge at the bottom of the Grapevine. If it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going to sit down there till 7.
Let the traffic go.
Then I'm going to go over the hill, over the Grapevine, and get into the 210 at 7, 8 o'clock in the evening when the traffic's flowing again. Otherwise, you're just sitting there spinning your wheels. You know, inch by inch, you're just eating up your time. You might as well go off duty, go get a shower, go get a nice meal, get some rest, and then
Take it back up.
But a new driver needs assistance in figuring that stuff out. I think the dispatchers have to be more aware because, you know, it's always the driver's fault. And once you accept a load, it's all on you, but, you know. But the dispatchers, they need to take a little bit more time, especially with the younger drivers, and help them go through those things, but they don't set them up for failure. Yeah. Because it's so easy to fail a load, and nobody wants to fail a load. You know, that was, I think that's how I established myself with night. And I would take the tough loads. I would get them there on time, come heck or high water. But it was very important to me that I did that. But
now I want to piggyback off of what you said on trip planning, because now they have account managers. They have all these managers that's communicating with their customers. So you're into this industry now, and man, they're hooking it up now to where you could pretty much be home a couple times a week where you're meeting another driver. They're logistically planning, and man, there's so much planning.
Where do those people go? I didn't get that.
Yeah.
And that's where the industry's going more
okay,
and
good,
more.
good.
It's not there yet, but that's where our company now is. They're wanting people to be creative, like take someone, meet them halfway, swap trailers, and go back home.
Yeah,
and to spend more home time, because that over the road lifestyle, I mean, it is far and few between for people. They want to have a life, a work, balance it out. So I'm glad you hit on like the planning.
You know,
part.
that's what drew us to night transportation. We were working for a company. I won't mention their names, but they wanted you to have 12 days off a year. That was it. 1 day a month. And that's horrible. That was just unacceptable. But as I talked to other truckers on the road, they said night's the one to go to because they're family oriented, that they care about their people. And sure enough, that's the way it was. It was hard to get in because you needed at least 6 months minimum driving at the time. Yep. And you clean record and, you know, and all that stuff.
Are you seeing the same thing that he's talking about now since you're so new? I mean, August 16th, are you seeing that family atmosphere into the company?
Because you're definitely not seeing the green screen that Will and
that's true.
And your dad saw.
Yeah, anytime that I needed, you know, to take care of something or wanted, like after 6 weeks, I was like, I need to go home. My dad kept telling me, he's like, Des, you need to tell your dispatcher you need like some days off because every day I'm calling him crying, and he's like, no, you need to go home.
Yep.
So, but as soon as I did it, he was like, yeah, no problem. And then even like this, to come do the podcast, I was like, hey, I said, can I get a couple days extra so that I have family here? Can I? So, you know, and so he was like, yeah, no problem. So he's, you know, good. And so it hasn't been any, it's been really nice. And even whenever my trainer, she had a family emergency come up in the middle of the 2-week training. And so we did 1 week and she had to take care of something. So, but I had the terminal manager, the recruiter call me and say, are you okay? Safety was like, hey, you know what? I know you're staying there with the truck in Fontana. Are you okay? You want us to get you, a way to go home and spend a few days? And I'm like, no, I just need to, and so, but because, people reaching out and makes you feel like, even though sometimes on the road when you're out there, you feel alone, because you are, except by, phone contact, and thank goodness that there's FaceTime. But to have somebody actually in a company that's our size to be able to call and say, hey, you know what, I know, are you okay with that? Is that going to be a problem? Do you, to try to accommodate, or it made you feel like they do care about you. And, that was something that I heard a lot, was like, companies, it's all revolving door, and like, they don't really care about you, especially bigger companies, because they're, you're just a number to them. And, and so for my experience, and not mentioning any names, but when I went to school, there was the other person, and she had gone with a recruiter from somewhere else because she wasn't working with me. And she had talked to the recruiter one time, and my recruiter was awesome. He called me like every week, even though I wasn't going to start for 6 weeks. He called me like once a week and be like, hey, you're still coming, right? And is there anything that we can do? And just help walk me through it, because I was so scared and I had never done anything like that. And I think she ended up quitting after her training, because she, I think, had felt so unsupported in the process that
she couldn't get through it.
Yeah, it was just too challenging.
Yeah, there was an old school message here, and I remember when I interviewed coming off the road into the inner workings of night, and the first thing they said was, you stay connected with your drivers. That was an old school mentality, and it needs to come back these days. And it is that you stay connected with somebody and you have a network of support people here. Don't burn yourself out.
That was the first thing they told you, right?
What?
To stay close to your drivers.
Stay connected.
What was the second thing? Do you remember? I do.
I don't.
They said, don't make us regret this, Will.
No, to me, to you.
No, to you.
Oh, to you.
And we've been regretting it ever since. We just have. But we love them anyways.
Right?
So I want to ask you to tell everyone out there, what advice, not as a female, as a driver, coming into the industry, what advice would you give somebody coming in that's making, or maybe on the fence about a career change, what to expect, hang in there, kind of a pep talk for people?
Well, everybody with time has said, you know what, just expect that the first 3 months are going to be hard. It is going to be hard because it's something new. You're away from everybody that you're used to seeing on a daily basis. And it's all new. But if you'll stick with it, our country's beautiful. It is beautiful. And you get to see the best in people. It's just, and I'm doing this, every day I get to do this.
Is it just as exciting now as it was in the beginning?
3 months ago?
Yeah.
Only 2 months.
2 months, sorry.
I guess it's almost 3, but yeah. It is exciting.
The scary part will never go away.
Okay, because I'm like, it's a little scary.
No, that will keep you. That right there will keep you safe.
Yeah,
yeah, that's the safety part. That's respect. No arrogance and cockiness, but that right there will keep you, and that will never go away. As long as you fear it, you respect it.
That's right.
So it's a little bit scary, but it's just trying to. Sometimes I feel like I fail every day, and that's what I talked to my dispatch. I was like, I have never had a bigger learning gap than I have had in this position, because, my background is in finance and business and all that kind of thing. And so to have to put work gloves on with these nails and having to get under my truck if I need to, inspect everything. It's, and know that a truck has more than just tires on it has been challenging. But it's good, and making my loads late and having to call the cops because I turned down the wrong way. When I had to do that, because I had to do it 3 times.
Pretty humbling, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, but I only actually had help 2 times, because I got to call him the 3rd time and tell him, I found a way out. You don't have to come. but having to do that, and they thanked me because it's a safer way for me and for everybody. So, it didn't seem like they were bothered or, I didn't
they understand the process. Nobody's perfect at it.
And so, but every day, because I'm learning something new, I usually have to fail at it so that I don't do it again. And so, most days it feels like I'm failing, but I'm learning and I'm growing. And so I'm just waiting for that day. Well, actually, I did have a little bit of a breakthrough. I went to the same shipper twice, and I started pulling up. I was like, I know this place. I remember this. Right? And so it was like, okay, I know. I backed up here before I can do that again. And so it's like those things. It's like starting to feel more comfortable because, I can look at Google Maps once I, have it in my GPS, but I want to see which way am I going to come in and which side, because sometimes the GPS doesn't tell me exactly which side. And so I'm looking at that from Google above, and so starting to get familiar and building more confidence. This is building my confidence because
that's all of what it's for. And you know what that's going to lead to? You mentoring other people out there. You're going to be a trainer one day, and you're going to be able to tell them everything you're experiencing, what you're learning from your father.
But I get alimony, so I don't have to train anyone.
Oh, you will. You'll have a bigger bank account.
Will wasn't quite sure where to go with that one.
Hey,
sorry.
Thanks.
Well, you'll have your own personal success then, right?
Right.
There you go.
Do you have
but
a
my
goal?
kids are proud of me.
It's way to go,
amazing.
Mom.
Do you have a goal to surpass your father's 1.8 million?
No.
No?
I don't have a goal that way.
Yeah, we have a card that we give.
Hey,
all
she's just
new,
taking it one day at a time.
I have
enjoying the
personal
experience right
goals.
now.
But here we have a card that we give to everybody. It's called a Route to a Million. So the average driver does about 125,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So it should take you about 6.5 to 7 years for $1 million.
Right.
Have you set yourself a goal for things you'd like to have in trucking? Milestones. It's okay. No, just kind of.
But I know that I'm going to have my debt paid off within 6 months because of my having a good dispatch. And he
and
sends
the alimony?
No, not the alimony. Oh. Well, maybe a little bit of the alimony. But because I get to work a lot of, he sends me on these, I get a lot of miles every week. Yeah. And because he's willing to do that for me, I'm going to have my debt paid off. And then I'm going to buy my own. I don't even know if I'm going to buy a house yet because I don't know where I want to live. I'm still looking at all the places that are so beautiful because my kids are grown, so I can live wherever I want, right?
Good point.
So, yeah. So I haven't looked at goals like that as far as for trucking because I figure without the trucking, I can't make my personal goals.
Right.
And, with family and taking my, at least once a year, I take my kids to Disneyland. And so I still want to do that. We would go at least once or twice a year. And so I still want to be able to do all that with the grandbabies. And so, life is just a little bit different. So I don't have those trucking goals, but I do have goals.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
It's different than your goals.
Right.
Right.
If I wing it every day.
If I can walk a mile, I'll be happy. And I don't care how many miles I drive. Just send me.
He got.
What?
I think he only ended up getting 20 miles before he got out of the truck, right?
Legal or illegal? I got caught lots of times with my logbooks. I wasn't smart enough to say half the lingo.
I got caught.
That's on
all
a different
the time.
Yeah, that's on a different podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, we really appreciate you both coming in and spending some time with us.
Thank you.
It's obviously it's an honor to see Bill again. I know we met once before as you kind of neared that retirement phase, but it's awesome to see you and to hear the incredible stories that you have of the industry and getting your CDL. It was fantastic. And then obviously, as you've passed it on to members of your family and talking to Des and hearing about her successes, it's been awesome.
It's an absolute pleasure to be back home again to the family.
Absolutely.
Night means a lot to me. Night was very, very good to me and my family. And so we're glad that we're able to do our part. Can I say one other thing?
You sure can.
Safety-wise to the younger drivers.
Give those young bucks all the wisdom they need.
You want to look into the camera and say, this camera right here, Mr. Haro, you look into that camera.
Being a trainer, as I was, there was 3 modes of driving that I developed. And the first one is on the highway. And on the highway, you're you're just rocking and rolling. You know, you're out there and everything's going smooth and you're going at a fast pace. But once you start entering into a city, you go into a different mode, and that's slow her down, bring her down, and keep your distance. There wasn't a day that went by that I didn't see a rear-end collision, if not 10 or 15 of them going through Los Angeles or Sacramento or whatever the case is. So that's the mode, the second mode. The third mode is your parking lots, your delivery points, your pickup points. That's when you're going even slower and being more cautious because there's close proximity to other vehicles and you're swinging your back of your trailer, the front of your trailer, you know, the people that are walking around you. So it's always slower till you get back on the road again, and you can pick up the pace. But that's critical in driving. And remember, keep your distance. That is the very most important thing to do. Do not tailgate. It doesn't get you anywhere. It's like when you go through a city, it's like going backwards because you got to keep backing off, because everybody cuts in front of you. And instead of getting angry, don't get angry because there's another idiot right behind that one. You know,
probably 1,000 more behind the next one.
Yeah, and it eats you up. You get so angry. There's no reason to be angry. That's just the way it is. But it starts with you. And like Desi was saying about the way it used to be, you can start with you. Yeah. Be kind, be respectful. Oh, you know, always remember your shippers and your receivers. Those are your customers, and you're there to serve them, and you treat them because that's who pays you. You know, Knight gives you the money, but they're the ones that are feeding the pot. So be professional and whatever you do, and be good to one another. That's very important.
Great advice.
You hear that?
Bill.
Be good
Great
to
advice.
one another, Brett.
I'm still working on that. But hey, again, great advice to all you young bucks, from an old veteran like Bill Haro to almost 2 million miles with Knight Transportation, but within the industry, well over 2 million miles. So take it to heart. And while you're out there listening, don't forget to subscribe or follow us on social media and the audio streaming platforms. And for Slick Willie, I'm Brett, and we'll see you next time. So keep on trucking.
Keep on trucking, America.
Bam, and we out.
We enjoyed bringing this show to you, and we hope you had fun along the way, too. We're going 10-10 for now, but you can catch us on the side on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Beyond the Rig and Drive Night. Until next time, be safe out there and keep trucking.